Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? Today we're heading deep into the jungles of Guatemala.
To the legendary Maya city of Tikal.
Oh, yeah, Tikal. Now, we tend to think of the ancient Maya, especially in a city like this, as this,
Kind of isolated civilization.
developing in their own unique way. But a recent discovery,
Has turned that idea on its head.
it really has. It suggests that Tikal was connected to a power hundreds of miles away. And that is
The Teotihuacan Empire.
exactly
So we're talking about two major ancient centers that we might have thought were isolated,
right.
but were actually part of this much larger,
Web.
this web of influence and interaction. So Tikal itself was a significant Maya capital.
Flourishing.
Yeah, flourishing between roughly 250 and 550 AD.
Okay. And in that dense,
Jungle environment.
deep in the rainforest. And at the center of our deep dive today is this incredible painted altar.
Unearthed right in Tikal's core.
Yeah. And the details on this thing, I mean, wow.
Striking.
It's covered in these vivid colors, red, black, and yellow,
And it depicts a figure
with a feathered headdress.
flanked by these shields and other regalia. It's quite a find.
Oh, it's incredible. And the research published in Antiquity, it points to a pretty significant parallel here
A significant parallel.
with the Teotihuacan.
Storm god.
Yeah. Now, remember, we're talking about Teotihuacan, this colossal urban center.
In central Mexico?
Yeah, way up in central Mexico, over 600 miles away.
Over 600 miles, I mean.
To find this specific Teotihuacan religious imagery,
On an altar.
yeah, crafted in Tikal, during this specific period, it really makes you think.
It does. What was the nature of their relationship?
Right. So let's break this down. A storm god from this distant Teotihuacan,
Appearing.
appearing on an altar in Tikal.
It's more than just a shared artistic trend.
I mean, it seems like something much bigger.
It's bigger. Exactly.
That Professor Stephen Houston, he's from Brown University.
A co-author of the study.
Yeah, he called it an extraordinary period of turbulence at Tikal. He said that the altar confirms that wealthy leaders from Teotihuacan actually came to Tikal,
And they created replicas of ritual facilities
which would have existed.
in their home city.
Yeah. And he said that they left a heavy imprint.
So that raises the question of just how far Teotihuacan's reach extended.
Right. I mean, we've got this altar with its clear,
Teotihuacan style.
artistic style, religious symbolism,
It suggests
like a really substantial link,
a substantial link, potentially even
direct oversight.
direct oversight. And Houston mentioned
Replicas of ritual facilities.
exactly, and that implies
Like a very deliberate effort
a deliberate effort to introduce these elements.
of Teotihuacan culture into the Maya capital.
And this really builds on what archaeologists have been finding for decades, right?
For decades.
All this evidence suggesting that Teotihuacan was,
Slowly.
slowly annexing Tikal.
Annexing Tikal. It's a strong word.
Yeah,
And we even have these historical texts.
that describe.
Yeah. A pretty dramatic power shift where the king of Tikal was removed and replaced with
A puppet king.
who basically served Teotihuacan's interests.
You know, replacing a local ruler with someone who is essentially
Lawyer.
loyal to a foreign power,
That's huge.
that's not a subtle form of influence.
It's not. It suggests a much more
direct
level of control. And then on top of all this, we have this incredible,
LiDAR study.
from Brown University.
This is where it gets really interesting.
This is where it gets really cool. They use this aerial scanning technology,
And they found
what appears to be
a scaled down
a scaled-down replica.
of the Teotihuacan citadel.
I mean, a whole citadel.
Just outside.
Just outside of Tikal city center.
This isn't just about shared artistic ideas or treated artifacts anymore.
Right.
This is a significant
Architectural.
statement.
Yeah. So they found a structure that looks a lot like the Teotihuacan citadel,
Which in Teotihuacan was this central complex
of pyramids and plazas and administrative buildings.
Yeah.
And this is so close to the heart of Tikal.
It suggests a very intentional and prolonged presence. The study authors, they even called it an unprecedented level of cultural assimilation.
Wow.
In the ancient Americas. I mean, adopting certain artistic styles is one thing,
Sure.
but constructing a recognizable copy of
Yeah.
your homeland's central structures,
It's a statement.
that's a statement.
So to recap, we have this altar with its Teotihuacan storm god. We have these accounts of a puppet king.
And a physical replica of their power center.
Yeah. It really paints this picture of a very strong connection.
A very strong connection. And perhaps not entirely
Voluntary.
voluntary.
Yeah. But here's another fascinating twist. This altar
and the buildings around it
were eventually buried.
Now, this burial is particularly significant.
It is?
The Maya, they did have traditions of burying and rebuilding.
Yeah, like a cyclical renewal.
Cyclical renewal.
Yeah.
But this instance seems different.
It does.
And co-author Andrew Scherer points out that this burial, he thinks it cements the theory that Teotihuacan's presence left Tikal forever changed.
Changed.
And even scarred.
Scarred. That's a powerful word.
It is.
Especially in an archaeological context.
Yeah.
And Scherer described how they buried the altar in the surrounding buildings.
And just left them.
Yeah.
Even though it would have been prime real estate.
Centuries later.
Centuries later.
Yeah, prime real estate. And he said that they treated it
almost like a memorial or a radioactive zone.
I mean, that's a stark contrast.
A stark contrast to their usual practice.
Of building on top of previous structures.
It really is. And what's fascinating here, I think, is the potential underlying emotions.
Right.
I mean, if the Maya were just moving on and rebuilding
as part of their normal cycle?
As part of their normal cycle, you would expect them to reuse that land.
Yeah.
But the fact that they avoided it for centuries,
right,
it suggests this deep and perhaps even negative association with Teotihuacan presence.
It wasn't just a political or economic thing.
It wasn't. This appears to have had a profound cultural and even psychological impact on the Maya of Tikal.
So this painted altar, it's more than just a cool artifact. It's a window into this incredibly complex relationship.
It is.
Between Tikal and this distant empire.
And it offers compelling evidence of a direct and significant connection
to the Teotihuacan Empire. I mean, the imagery on the altar, the historical accounts of a puppet king, and that replica citadel.
It all points to
a level of influence that goes way beyond simple
trade or diplomatic exchanges.
Way beyond.
The sheer distance between these two centers, I think, makes it even more remarkable.
It really does.
It challenges us to think differently about
power dynamics.
The power dynamics and cultural exchanges in ancient Mesoamerica.
And it wasn't just a collection of isolated societies.
It wasn't. There were these intricate
and far-reaching
interactions.
Shaping their destinies.
It makes you wonder what other hidden stories are out there.
Right. Buried beneath the surface, just waiting to be uncovered.
Mm-hmm.
And how might those discoveries change how we understand the past?
Exactly.
The relationship between Tikal and Teotihuacan, it might not have been just a simple story of one empire dominating another.
It might have been
much more nuanced.
Complicated,
well,
yeah. Something for us all to think about.
A lot to ponder. Until next time.